Today is Sunday, the 2nd of April. Tomorrow is Monday, the 3rd of April. Kwa Kiswahili tunasema Jumatatu tarehe 3 na Jumapili tarehe 2. We expect tomorrow for the Supreme Court to sit and deliberate on matters to do with the constitutional crisis that we are having in Kenya right now. But I have a problem with Kenyans. I'm recording this thing 18 hours before the Supreme Court sits to make a decision. And I'm going to upload it 12 hours before the Supreme Court makes a determination. But you'll find, because the sitting will be on Monday, but you'll find somebody watching this video on Tuesday, then starting to castigate me by saying, you said this, and it has happened the opposite. Kindly understand that there is a time that elapses from the time of shooting to the time of uploading to the time you read. I may even be shooting, and by the time I upload, things have changed. I have in mind the case of Raila Odinga. I had recorded and uploaded when Raila had not yet met President Ramaphosa. But after uploading, and after people viewing, Raila later met Ramaphosa. Somebody was castigating me. You said Raila has not met Ramaphosa, but he has already met him. Kindly understand that I'm recording this one on Sunday before the sitting is. It may be exactly the way I'm saying. It may be opposite of what I'm saying, or it can be a mix of two. It would be better for us to evaluate it comparing to what I'm saying and what the judgment or the decision, the determination, not judgment, the determination would be. I remember that constitutionally, the IEBC was supposed to have prepared, the IBC is supposed to have prepared the demarcation of new constituencies latest by 6th March 2024. That is 11 months ago. They were supposed to have done the demarcation of new constituencies by 6th March 2024. That is 11 months ago. But they have not even started. So that is why they are going to make a determination. There are constituencies with less than the formula made. You see, there is a formula that is made. For example, the country is divided into how many constituencies? The number of constituencies and the number of population. Number of population versus number of constituencies. Now, when they do that, they divide. Let's say that we have 20 million people in Kenya and they want 40 constituencies. So they'll say that 20 million divided by 40, that is 500,000 per constituency. For example, just an example. Then they have a formula that they say plus or minus. For example, 10%. So they'll say that urban areas like Nairobi, a constituency would be allowed. We found that per constituency we require 500,000 population, for example. Then they say that in urban areas, they are allowed to have 10% more. So instead of 500,000, then it will be 550,000. urban areas. And in remote areas like North Hor, imagine North Hor has the population, not the population, as an area, that is a constituency, as an area more than some of the many of the former provinces. It is bigger in size than Western province, or we can even say it is bigger in size than Nyanza province, or we can even say it is bigger than Central province. So it is bigger in area more than other some former provinces. So they would say that in remote areas there is a minus 10%. I'm not talking of a 10 exactly 10, but I'm only giving 10% as an example. If they say that plus or minus 10%, it means that in urban areas, a constituency is allowed to have 10% more. If it is, for example, if each constituency needs 500,000 people, then in urban areas, they are allowed to go as high as 550,000 people. And in remote areas, it can even go down as 450. There is that formula. But I predict that those constituencies, kina Odhaya for you, kina Ndaragwa, you see, Jeremiah Kioni started all these things not because of anything or whatever. Even Jeremiah Kioni was in the forefront about BBI because Ndaragwa, where he comes from, is one of the constituencies which do not fit in that. Kina Odhaya, kina Ndaragwa, kina Mukurweini, so many constituencies did not fit in this. So if you follow the constitution as it is written, it means that these constituencies were supposed to be scrapped. There is a year that Nyando did that. If it is not Nyando, somewhere in Kisumu, where they see that let us talk of three constituencies. There is Central, there is East, and there is West. So they find that the population does not allow. Then they split the Central constituency so that they remain, instead of three, they remain two. That is East and West, or North and South. So the third one, the Central one, is done away with. That is how the constituencies are removed. But I predict that those constituencies will not be scrapped because of the constitutional crisis that we have now. Because of the constitutional crisis that we have now, it will make it possible. It will make it impossible to scrap, because youths who have come of age have not registered as voters, and so on and so forth, and so it will be not be scrapped. The reason is that there is a lacuna. Lacuna is the legal word for vacuum that was brought about by this hulabaloo about the constitution. I also predict that we will not have new constituencies before 2027. I don't see new constituencies being created before 2027. I know a lot of politicians will, and you know, most of the things in Kenya, if if it is somehow connected to politicians, if it is somehow connected to politicians, the politicians will come out in full force. I see new constituencies demarcated around 2030. I think these 2 points are related, and I have to put them together. I predict that there will be no new constituencies before 2027, but I see new constituencies around 2030. Why am I seeing so? If today, suppose today we decided to create new constituencies, we are new commissioners will be sworn in, let's say in March 2025. New commissioners will be sworn in March 2025. And when they are sworn in, they have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do. They have so many youths. There are so many youths who came up of age. Remember, it was this for those who are slightly older. You'll remember that initially we used to have people register every election, and people used to register afresh. But we had a permanent register from 1997, so that from 1997 you maintain the same polling station unless you want to change, to another constituency or to another polling station. But before 1997 is every new parliament, people used to everybody starting from the president to the sweeper, they all registered afresh. So what happens is that, for example, if today you are to transfer from here to there, you'll still retain your registration number, but it will now be indicated that you are in the new constituency. You are in the new constituency and not the old constituency. But those years, those of us who are not very young, every election you started afresh. You just registered as if you just registered like the youths who have completed school. So the registration will take time. Imagine the new commissioners will be sworn in March, and the registration will start, let's say in April. Registration of youths who are now have IDs but have not registered as a voters. They'll start in earliest April. Let's put it at April 2025. Then take it 3 months for registration. After 3 months, that is around July, is when now the IEBC will now come up with a now IBC will now come up with a figure and say Kenya has so many registered voters. That is around July. And then in July, as they were registering, there was the mapping. Uh, Already the Electoral Commission, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission would have communicated with the Survey of Kenya, where they have demarcated the whole country and whatever. And you see, the demarcation goes a long way. It is not just a matter of dividing areas and whatever. They will look at things like, for example, rivers and even roads and whatever, where you find that one side of the river, it's this clan, tribe, and then you find that they sometimes meander to put things like geographical features like roads, geographical figures like rivers and whatever, and hills, to include them in this or that constituency or ward. Now, when they have done that, then they'll try to fix it. You see, if it was to put Kenya into perspective, and then you put Kenya into perspective whereby they just say every constituency has to have 2,000 people, it will be a bit difficult. So you'll find that they'll be following natural causes such as rivers and whatever to demarcate constituencies and wards. They would use that. And then they will also use areas like you may find that at a boundary, some places are for a certain tribe or clan or whatever. So you may find that where two or more clans or tribes are connected, you will see that certain area tends to have certain tribe more than this one. So they meander it to an extent that some areas that there's that mapping and whatever. It takes time. Now imagine they'll have done those things ready. What they'll be needing maybe in August. In August they'll be needing now the figures, because youths will have registered afresh, and even people who want to change. There's those people who are in this constituency and would want to transfer to another constituency. So that one we can give it up to 9 months. That is June 2026. Now, when you tell me June 2026 and elections are being held is in 2027, a lot of politicians will notice that and it will be too late. I can tell you as an old man that in Kitale, they did that thing to one Henry Pius Masindemurro. What they did to Henry Pius Masindemurro is that he used to stay near the boundary of two constituencies, and he used to represent this constituency. So they knew all his campaigns he has done in this constituency, and he was staying near the boundary of the two constituencies. So what they did is that they came and took his compound and placed him in this constituency, so that in a place where he had never campaigned, where he had not planned anything, whatever, and invested, is the constituency that he found himself there. So there is a need. There is a need. Let's take like March 2024. If March 2024 there was a demarcation, politicians would have chosen which constituency or ward to be in, and they would be campaigning. Now telling me that they'll have at most 15 months, it will not happen that way. So that is one of the things. So it will happen that the 2027, I think my position is, judges also, this is not a case like other cases. This is other cases, judges are supposed to pretend that they don't even live in Kenya, so that the evidence and the law is what governs them. But then they cannot decide to make a determination of a case where they know there'll be whatever. So I believe that they will push it to 2030, so that if 2027 demarcation happens 2029 or 2030, so that people wanajipanga kulingana na the new constituencies and the new wards. And again, after, this thing is not just as straightforward as I'm throwing away dates, saying that, oh, on this day, this will happen. On that day, this will happen. No. You see, the IEBC will require a budget for registering new voters and also transferring those voters who want to move from one polling station to another polling station. This thing, they have to go to the National Assembly to approve an emergency budget, and you see that one also takes time, because its budget will also include employing new people. And remember, there is something that has come into Kenya's vocabulary nowadays, that anything happening, even in my house, when I want to pick, when Watengeres wants to cook, we have a public participation. Oh, kids are tulibaki wawili. But anyway, in homes, when you want to cook supper, you have public participation. Otherwise, you'll find kids saying that we didn't participate in deciding what to be cooked. Kenyans are very good in dismantling what they created. This 2010 constitution, we said that it is maybe one of the most optimistic constitutions that has ever been imagined. But it is Kenyans who themselves have dismantled this. All these problems were brought about by Kenyans. First of all, the commissioners themselves who are there, they were employed in two bunches. So people used to complain previously that we used to have all commissioners at one time. Why can't they overlap? Why can't they overlap so that we have others and whatever? And if things would have gone, if the commission would not have been divided into two, we would have had the three commissioners, the chairman and two other commissioners would have retired, but the four would still continue. The four would have continued, and what? But four commissioners, that is a quorum. They would have done the demarcation. They would have done whatever. We would also have had the three other commissioners selected, I mean, or appointed, but people rushed to court. It is very funny that one of the people who rushed to court, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, is the very fellow who was saying that Ruto was delaying the appointment of the commission. Walikuwa wameshindwa ni Mkamba gani atakuweko kwa Kimuli ama yule whatever, and then they rushed to court, and then he goes back and says it is the president. Hiyo ilikuwa ni maneno ya Wakamba. Now we have found ourselves in a quagmire that we will in the future also find ourselves in it. Yeah, we'll find ourselves in another quagmire, not this one. Why? Because Kenyans were very good at creating quagmires. Now, the quagmire we are in, the framers of the Constitution did not envisionate it while they were creating the Constitution. After all, they had even created a situation where the chairman and two commissioners were retiring, the vice and three other, to make it four, were retained, so that by the time other ones come in, and then the new ones, when they are used to that, and the four goes, and you all know what happened during the last elections. So the framers are not to blame. It is like the vehicle. You blame the vehicle. Say the vehicle. You blame the vehicle by saying that the driver drove it very bad, but it is the mechanic. It is the mechanic who did not fine tune the engine. No, it's the other way around. The mechanic made a very good vehicle. Yeah, sorry, I apologize for that. The mechanic made a vehicle so well, and then he gave you to drive, and then you drove badly, and then you say mmenipatia gari mkebe. Now we will be compelled to make constitution amendments. There are three ways of making law or constitution. Three ways. One way is through the legislature. The law is taken to parliament and it is passed. The second one is through a referendum. Yeah, we can change the law or even the constitution through a referendum. And the third one that is now applicable in this case is through judicial interpretation, like now. Now, what will happen? This thing has never happened in Kenya. This thing has never, was never envisioned by those who created the constitution. What will they do? What they will do is that the country is asking them to find a way out. Yeah, to find a way out. Jurisprudence. Jurisprudence means prudence judiciary. Now, what they will do, first of all, they will look at Kriegler report. And that is where I started, where I said they look at the Kriegler report, which says that the creation of constituencies near the employing commissioners, whatever. And then they will come out with a roadmap which would be justifiable for this particular period. If you can remember very well, during the Maraga Supreme Court judgment, there's a time when journalists went to visit him at his house, and he was in the field there. He was with his 3 or 4 legal researchers. He had 3 or 4 legal researchers. That is what now the Supreme Court will do. They will, with the assistance of legal researchers, they will go to look for all before even making a decision, because all sides have given their suggestions and on and on. It even reaches a stage. I don't know all about this case, but it can even reach a case where the people presenting cases would be in such a way that they have not suggested anything. They would just say, okay, what do we do? Because we can never move forward. We cannot do it. Like, I think the secretariat has said the secretariat has been tied. They cannot do anything because of a former decision saying that things like registration of voters has to wait for commissioners, such a thing. Now give us a way forward. That is what they would want to get from. And then does it mean that if we hold elections today, if we were to hold elections today, not in 2027, and there are no new constituencies, some Kenyans like rushing to court. Somebody would say we were supposed to have a new constitution, no, new constituencies on 20 on March 2024. Now we don't have a new constitution, so can you declare the 2027 election null and void? So they are trying to avoid that. They are trying to avoid that. So the judges, with their legal researchers, they will have to look at past cases. Of course, we don't have such a case. Then they look at jurisdiction, similar jurisdiction. They will look at jurisdiction which are similar to Kenya, especially the Commonwealth. Have we any country? And that is why whenever you listen to judges, you hear them meandering and saying, the Canadian case of 1827 or whatever, they are referring to such cases because such a case may have happened in another Commonwealth country in the 18 something. So that is how they look at all countries, especially countries with similar jurisprudence like Kenya. They look at such countries and then they are allowed to pick from there, especially in cases where we don't have a history of a similar case. They can pick there. They can say that such and such a country once used to have such a thing, and this is how they will they decided. And they have to be very careful because whatever they decide, it means that okay, for example, just example, no other country has ever had itself in such a position. If there is another country within the Commonwealth that has had such a problem, they will use that to back their case up if there is another country. Because it will really look ugly for a Commonwealth country to have decided to go left and then the Supreme Court of Kenya decides to go to right. So they have to quote and said in a case that was this and this is in a Commonwealth country called this and this is what the Supreme Court or the Constitutional Court decided, and we are going to follow that. They also have to understand that if we don't have such a case, because I'm keeping repeating that, supposing they decide against, okay, country ABCD had a case, they went left. Now we have decided to go right. You see, they'll confuse scholars. Future scholars will have a problem. Future scholars will have a problem in determining which of the two to follow. So if there is such a situation which has happened in another country, and what I'm saying here is where there is a vacuum, because if a country can decide that whenever there is a vacuum, this is what is going to happen. We are going to have the prime minister, or we are going to have the secretary of state to determine whatever would happen. You see, that one is not applicable to this case. But I'm talking of countries where it is silent on such a case. If we have any other Commonwealth country that has ever had such a thing, then the Supreme Court of Kenya is a must that it must follow that. And that is why, as I said before, and I'm repeating, that during the Supreme Court, during Maraga time, there is a TV station that went to his house and found him outside there with the volumes, and he had around four legal researchers, So they will do research and find any other country which has done. If it doesn't have, then it will be upon them to set a precedence. It is upon them to set a precedence. And when they set up a precedence, other countries, not just Kenya, other countries that will be found in such a situation will always quote them. And they will also have determined, you'll find that law schools from now on will now be quoting them. They will now be quoted in law schools worldwide. So that is what is going to happen, and it is going to happen tomorrow. As I said, I'm seeing the demarcation of the boundaries happening not any time before 2030, because as I'd given a small, as I'd given a route map, is that if we have to follow things, if we decide to hasten it again, and Kenyans are very good in rushing to court, they'll rush and say, why is the hurry? They'll rush to court and stop the proceedings, and it will even go far and far. But whatever is happening and the history of Kenya, I believe that whatever decision that the Supreme Court will decide tomorrow on a Monday, I don't think there is anybody, people will just go to work, because we really need to gain up with the time that is lost. What happens if elections are held in, not election, demarcation is held in 2030? Remember, 2030, to me, and that is my view, and I'm entitled to my view, is that Ruto is going back, unless and until if Raila fails in African Union, he comes back and galvanizes people against Ruto. But we are having, is it 2 weeks? We're having 2 weeks. If Raila is elected, then Ruto will sail through without very little hindrance. Now, supposing it happens that way, because I suspect that is what is going to happen. I suspect Raila is going to be elected, and I suspect that somebody, and I've always said the sixth president is the age of Kina Dindi Nyoro, Kina Babu Owino. That age group is the one which is going to produce the sixth president. I may not be there, I may have gone to you know where, but that is the truth. So you'll find that in 2030, when there'll be, actually even in Kenya, you find that upon Ruto being sworn in for the second term, you'll find that campaign proper will happen. Campaign proper will happen. That 5 years, people would have wished even it was 7 years, because campaigns Kenya, people campaign every day, and also bearing in mind that the demarcation of, that is when you'll now see a lot of people migrating. You'll remember that Nicholas Korir was the MP for Lang'ata sometime. It reached a time when all Kalenjins in Nairobi went to register in Lang'ata. So you find that 2030, there'll be a lot of people now concentrating on moving voters from one area to another, so as to have not only him or her standing a better chance of a leadership at the national level, but also they'll also fight to have more constituencies. We have this what I call 69 effect. 69 effect is whenever we are having new constituencies, we have whenever we have new constituencies, we let's say we need 10 constituencies or 20. We need 20 constituencies. 10 will be taken from the most densely populated constituency. That is one person per shilling policy. And another 10 will be sparsely populated areas. That is a kilometer a shilling. So just like 6 and 9 are the opposite. So they'll just write and say which is the most populous constituency in Kenya. They'll start one, and then the least popular sparsely is what, and then they'll go strike off one at the top, strike off one at the bottom, and that is where it is. So from 2030, after the demarcation is going to be the next war after the presidential election in 2027. Thank you for watching my long video. See you.